Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today we're doing another step-by-step acrylic painting tutorial of this painting that you can see beside me. This is one of a series called The Little Girl Without a Reflection. I've done 4 of these in my own practice very early on when I started painting. This is now the second of these tutorials that I've done. Might be the last one. Maybe I'll do different colors if people really want me to. But you can choose different colors as I talk about later on as well. So in this one I'm going to go through some basics of acrylic painting, talk about a few composition rules, and then just talk about brush strokes and a few different kind of brushes and things you can use them for. If you haven't checked out my other step-by-step acrylic painting tutorials, I'll link that playlist for you below. Let's just jump right into this one. Okay, we got our canvas laid out here. Got a few tools here. These are the brushes that I'm planning to use. Plus, at the very end, I will use this little round brush to sign the painting. But we've got a large flat brush. We've got a nice filbert brush here. This is a size 2. Anything between size 2, size 3, size 4 would probably be okay for what we're doing. Got a little angular brush here. It says it's a size 4. And then we've got 2 palette knives here. I'm going to use this one for mixing, and I'm going to use this one on the painting here a little bit. Now, if you haven't followed one of my tutorials before, I've done one similar to this with a different color. I used red. Make sure you do check that one out as well. Maybe you want to use that. But that being said, with this specific painting, as you can see, we are using medium, magenta, Mars black, titanium white. These are the 3 colors that I'm using, but you could substitute this out with really any color that you would want to use, and this is going to turn out very, very similar. Obviously, just a different main color. I've done this one before in red and blue and yellow and green, and I'll kind of get into the stories of those and as I'm painting here, just to want to chat a little bit. But again, feel free to use any main color. You don't have to use medium magenta like I'm using here. You can use a different one. All I've done here, this is a 9x12 canvas. You can use 8x10s or something similar. I'm going to give a few measurements, but you can do similar things on yours. I'm just going to briefly talk about the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is splitting your canvas into thirds, horizontal wise and vertical wise, and trying to have things start or end roughly at those spots. It just is more visually appealing. And so what I've done here is I took this little ruler, and I know a third of 12, because this is 12, is 4. I did a little bit less than 4, though. I did 3.5 up, and that's where my ground is going to be on this one. So if you want to take a quick moment to measure up about a third, if you're going to err on the side of either too much or too little, I would go less than a third for this painting, just because I think that looks better. I wouldn't go more than a third. You can definitely go to a third, but don't go more than a third. All right, we're going to start with our 1-inch brush here. Now, a few little things here that I use for materials. I just use old clothes that I've cut up for my rags to wipe my brushes off and dry them. For my water, I use mason jars, and they have a lid, then things aren't spilling by accident. I've got kids around, so you never know. Again, I've already mentioned those 3 brushes and these palette knives. Here's my palette here. I've used this palette now for 7 years. This is a non-stick palette made by TriArt, the same one that made this paintbrush here. And after the paint dries on this, you can just scrape it right off. It comes right off. And yeah, you can see it's a little bit stained, but for 7 years worth of paintings on this, it's been great. I love it. I've now purchased some for the classes that I teach at school, and they're fantastic. So if you're looking for a nice palette, this is definitely something you can use. All right, well, for this one, we're going to start with the background, work our way to the foreground. We're going to start with our sky here. So for that, we're going to use this 1-inch brush. We're going to use black, and we are going to use white here. So I'm going to put some down on our palette here. You can see by the picture that we're going off of here, which is just the completed version of this, it's going to be darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. So I'm going to grab some black here and just start brushing some of that in at the top. Nice horizontal strokes. Now I'm going to take some white, and I'm just going to go literally like right over top of that. Now this canvas that I'm working on is a little bit rough, and so it takes a bit to get all the grooves figured out. You can see I just grabbed a little bit of black because I felt like it was getting too gray. And you can just fill in. Like if I just grab a little bit of black, do a streak across, a streak back maybe, boom. That's all I want. I want to leave the texture on the painting for the sky. This isn't a detailed blue sky or anything like that with fancy clouds. This is just a more abstract looking sky. So if things are slightly off, that's totally fine. As we work our way down, things are just going to get lighter and lighter. Still using a bit of black in there. Again, some of these canvases are... This is just a canvas from the dollar store. So I don't expect a lot from it. They usually are pretty rough. Alright, get a little bit more white out there. I guess I should mention all the paints that I'm using in this are Liquitex Basics. I find Liquitex Basics to be an affordable, good quality paint. Liquitex heavy body and soft body I use for some of my professional paintings, and I do enjoy using those, but I find for learning or for practice, Liquitex Basics are fantastic. Great quality paint for a great price. I've done a whole comparison video comparing about 50 different acrylic paints, and I still find for student grade paint Liquitex Basics to be among the higher end. I'm just continuing to grab some white here. This canvas is just soaking her up. I feel like it's not spreading as well as it usually would on like a board or something. It's a little bit rougher, and so we're having to use a bit more paint. Now we're going to go up, so we're going right down to this line here. If you go a little bit over as well, that's completely fine. And there's our background. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take, again, I need to put a little bit more white out here. You can use dollar store paints if you like to for this. I've used dollar store paints for some of the tutorials I did a few years ago just to show that you can still get good results even from materials that might not cost a lot. So I'm just mixing together some of this a little bit darker of a gray. And here we're going to add in our mountains. So our mountain is coming up here. Just like that. Now this mountain doesn't have to be super detailed. I'm going to grab a little bit of white here onto my brush. Just add a little bit of texture in here. There we go. With the darker little bit right here, it seems like that's kind of the back side of the mountain. And some lighter streaks up front here, showing that's more the front of the mountain. And there we go. That's all we're doing for the background there. That is awesome. We are good to go. I am just going to wipe this off. If you feel like rinsing it off, feel free to rinse it off. It's just going to get messy with some of those colors again in a moment. We are going to do kind of the reflection there, what seems like the water. So I'm going to take the medium magenta. You can take whatever color that you would like that you have. Just going to put some out here. Now I haven't used this color for this painting before. As I mentioned, I've done blue, yellow, red, and green. But when I was making the tutorial for the red, I was like, I almost, if you've watched that one, if you followed along with that one, I almost stopped and almost used it. But I decided sorry, you'll see that do not disturb on. Oh, there we go, now it's gone, just in case I get notifications. Anyways, I almost stopped using the red to use this just because I was so interested to see what this would look like. So I'm just taking this pink here. I know it says magenta, but it's, in my opinion, it's more like a pink. And notice I'm doing large vertical strokes. Now, the border up here doesn't have to be super clean because we're going to go over that with some black in a minute. Just try to make it somewhat straight so it's not too off. That'll make your life easier later. I mean, who doesn't like a nice, vibrant, bright color like this pink here? I thought this would be eye-catching for this painting. Again, just nice vertical strokes. Need to add a little bit more of this down here. Probably will need more, but that's okay. If you're interested in looking at the brushes I'm using, these brushes are actually just off of Amazon, and I have been using them for a few months now, and I'm actually pretty impressed with them. I recently just finished a very large painting of Christ, and I used these brushes for that painting. It was a 4 foot by 2.5 feet canvas, so quite a large one, and these brushes were fantastic. The brand is Fumui. I don't know. It's just one of those Amazon things, I think. Okay, once you have kind of that layer in there, I'm going to take some white just on the brush like that, and I'm just going to do a downward stroke. Downward stroke. Okay, so again, we want to keep these strokes very precise. Well, precise, just like meaning we want them to be purposeful. We want them to be downward. We don't want to do side to side, or else that's going to throw off what we're doing here. You can make sound effects with it if you'd like as well. Once you have some white ones in there, now I'm going to take some black on my brush, and we're doing that same idea. You'll get some grays in there, and that's all part of the plan. Now I'm going back over top with some of the pure pink here, just because I felt like I lost some of it in there. Grab a little bit more of this pure pink here. We'll do a little bit right there. And once you feel like you have it comfortably where you want it, then you're good. Now again, I'm not going to bother rinsing off my brush with water. I'm just going to wipe it off. Now we're going to add our ground line, and that is just going to be with black. I know I'm going to need some more black in the future anyway, so I'm just going to drop a little bit on the canvas, or on the palette here. Sorry, I just got my monitor for my kids just watching it there. They're going to bed. Now if you want to, you can always turn your canvas. Right. Sometimes I think people think, oh, they have to paint a certain way. I'm just going to go across here and create this ground line. Alright, once you have that part on there, now what you can do is, actually you can rinse this off. We're pretty well done with this larger brush here. Sometimes before I rinse brushes, I will try to wipe off a little bit of that excess paint, and I find they just clean a little bit easier that way. Still get my water nice and dirty, but after I'm done painting, then I'll usually do a better deep clean of my brushes. Alright, and just dry that off a little bit. Okay, I'm now going to take my little angular brush, and this is what I'm going to use for the tree. Okay, just to block in the tree as we go here. And so to do that, I'm just going to grab black. I'm just going to start with black. And it's going to start in just a little bit into the painting there. And it's going to be coming up at an angle. Now, depending how fast you're working, some of your sky might be slightly damp still. And that's totally fine. It's going to blend a little bit. That's a-okay. Have a branch coming off up here. Have some other ones coming off this way here. The other side of the trunk is going to start this way. We got a little bit of a slant there to it, as you can see. Gonna have a branch coming off the side over here. And we'll add branch coming up right there. And honestly, for these higher branches, you don't need to worry too much about the detail. They just need to be there, okay? Because we're going to be covering up most of them with leaves anyways. And so just by having some of these up top there is all that we really need to worry about. And we're going to take it pretty much right to the top of the canvas here. So you can see that these are not by any means detailed or anything like that. We're just adding some in here to give us a bit more guidance, I guess you could say, with our leaves that are coming soon here. I feel like some of these could be a bit more black. I'm just going in with pure black now. Just touching up a few edges that I feel like are a little bit too rough. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus slightly on the details of... Well, actually, no, sorry. We are missing the most important branch. So out of the front here, we need to add a branch coming off where the swing is going to be set on. Now some of the blending that's happening here with the sky is actually fantastic. It's going to save us some time later. Getting a little bit of pink on my arm there from the bottom. Alright, now we're going to focus a little bit on some detail slash blending. So I've just mixed up some dark gray here. I'm going to have my light source coming from the right, and so I'm going to have my lighter highlights coming onto the right side of the tree, which means the left side of my tree is going to have the darker highlights. And so I'm just going to brush in slightly some of this dark gray more towards the left side of the tree and the bottom parts of these branches here. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit more white to it, make it a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter. Now we're doing that same idea, but I'm just moving it slightly more towards the right side of the tree trunks and the top side slash right side of these branches. Okay, now I'm just going to grab almost pure white and go along the right side of the tree here. You might need to just wipe that brush off or you're going to have too much gray. Trying to mix back in with it. As you can see, I'm not covering like the full sides of them in lighter colors, just trying to create highlights that are maybe reflecting off the bark in different ways. Okay. Rinsing that one off for now. Let's take our filbert brush here, and we're going to start working into these leaves. So for the leaves, we're going to start with black. I'm going to turn my brush vertical like this, as you can see, and we're just going to start dabbing in the leaves. Now don't feel like you need to cover the whole area, because we're going to be adding in a few different layers of leaves, and so eventually we're going to cover most of it, but we do want to see a little bit of those branches in there as well. And it's already starting to blend a little bit with some of that whites and browns, or browns, the whites and grays that are there. And that's fine. I'm using that to my advantage. It's creating different textures for me. We're dabbing with a purpose here. Okay, once you got to black where you want it, I'm going to take a little bit of white, mix in with that. We're just going to make some dark gray, and I'm just going to go in just a few spots here, kind of like down towards the bottom of the tree lines, maybe on the edge out here. I'm going to leave kind of that back corner darker though, and that's all I'm really going to do with that. Going to grab some. Now I'm going to take, if you do want to rinse it off, you can. I'm going to take this pink now, and we want to add this going in here. And with this, we want to be a bit more purposeful. It's going to be a lot more whereas if that sun is shining on it, on these outer branches here. There'll be a little bits of pink forming in back there, but the majority of that vibrant pink we want more towards the front, maybe the bottom over here. Need a little bit more out there. And if you feel like any spots need a bit more dark, you can always go back in and add some of this dark afterwards, right? All right, I'm just noticing one thing here that I'm missing. Kind of silly of me, and I apologize for that, but we can go back in. Taking this filbert brush, taking some white, and just adding some white into this tree. I knew something was missing in this tree. When I was looking at it here in the end, I was like, something's not quite right. So we're just taking some white. We're trying to be very purposeful with it, you could say. So I'm not adding it everywhere. There we go. Okay. Once you have that where you want it, you can rinse off that brush. We're done with that one for now. Now we're going to move into our swing. Now for our swing, there's a few different ways you can make the swing and make a straight line. You can use a really, really fine brush. You can actually just set like a ruler against it with a fine brush and try to go along it. That'll keep one side smooth for sure. You could use painter's tape and put them very, very close and just paint over the line there. I'm going to show you how to do it with a palette knife here. Hence the reason why I have a palette knife on me. And I've used this one before for painting this, so I'm just going to get paint on this palette knife. This palette knife works great for it because it has a large flat edge, right? There's different kinds of palette knives. This one has a shorter, flatter edge. It still would probably work, but this one just would work better for it. So I got some paint on the edge there, and I'm just going to take it and just draw a line down. Okay, wipe that off. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect for what we're doing. I am going to take our angular brush here. This is what's going to make our swing seat. Okay. From there, we can go on to our fence line there. Okay, so I'm just going to get some black here, and we're going to start roughly, see this is kind of like the rule of thirds. I'm not going exactly a third, but I want this to be in a ways. I'm going to go up just slightly higher than my swing is over there. And we're going to do 3 poles. And then from that, we're going to do 2 logs across. And these don't have to be perfectly straight. If you've been on an old farm before, you'll have seen those fences that are created from small tree trunks, and they're definitely not straight. Okay, and from that, we are actually going to create a reflection of this fence line. So I guess I haven't told you the story yet. If you followed the other one like this, where I used red, then you will have heard this before. But when I was just a couple years into painting, actually I think it was even just my second year of painting. I've now been painting for 10 years as of 2024 here, which is crazy. Was when I first did the first set of these paintings, and I decided to make them slightly different by not painting a reflection of the girl. And then I called them the Little Girl Without a Reflection series. That's kind of where it all came from. And I did 4 different scenes, and in each of them the girl was in a different place. The first one she was on the swing, second one she was on the ground blowing a dandelion like is in the red one. This one she is against the fence post there, sitting down, and then the last one she's not there at all. And you can take from it what you will, but I just thought it would be an interesting thing, and I don't know, I was new into art, this was something simple, and I wanted it to have a little bit of meaning to it as well. Okay, I'm going to go in here now, and we're just going to create a little reflection of the tree. Now some of the pink and stuff blends with this. That is completely fine, because if it doesn't, if it's dry, we're actually going to go in and add some here in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this pink, and I'm just going to brush it into this black here. Just to create a little sense of dimension even in the reflection there. Now you might ask yourself, why doesn't the swing have a reflection? Because I don't want to put one in. If you want to add one in, feel free to. That's the nice thing about art, is you can do whatever you please. Alright, and the last thing that we need to go in here to do for this painting is add in the little girl. So for this one I've decided to make it similar to the green one that I did. And so I'm going to have her sitting up against the fence line there. And I decided for this, I'm going to use this small round brush. This is the brush I use for signing paintings, but I'm going to use it for the little girl as well, just because it gets a little bit small, and you just want to be able to have the finesse of working with this little brush. Now you can start wherever you like. I'm going to start, I know that I want her head to be about this tall. Okay, and her hair is going to come down here. And touch into there. Going to have her face come down, nose, mouth, chin, have her arm be coming down right there. she is going to be sitting down with her hands kind of up on her knees. So if her knees are right here, I feel like I brought her chin out a little bit too far. I'm just going to take a little bit of gray here. Just add it underneath of that chin so you can adjust it as you feel like you need to. There we go. Once you have it as you want it, then you can, I'm just going to take some dark pink here. And this is what I'm going to use to sign the painting. For signing the paintings, you can do as you like. Sometimes I'll do my full name if it's a very large painting and I have a lot of space. For smaller paintings, though, I will often just do my last name and the year. So for this one, I'll just do Sloan. And then a little hash mark, apostrophe, and 24. And we'll rinse that guy off. All right, now I think I'm finished. So I appreciate you being here today. Sorry for that little mishap at the end there. If you haven't followed my other step-by-step tutorials, that playlist is linked below where you can find all those various ones there. We got landscapes, we got more impressionistic paintings, a variety there. I'm trying to get more and more out there each week. Share this on your social media. If you did finish it, I would love to see your rendition of it. If you changed anything on it, what you did to make it better, send me a picture of it through email or through social media. Yeah, if you have any suggestions for future tutorials, please let me know. Thank you again for watching this one, and we'll see you next time here on Brian Sloan Artist.